My brother stole everything from me, so I took back more than he ever expected. Growing up, my brother Josh and I were close. At least, that's how I remember it. When we were kids, it was Josh who taught me how to ride a bike. Josh who covered for me when I broke Dad's favorite lamp. He was 3 years older, louder, and more confident. I always felt safe around him until I didn't. It all started when I was in my final year of high school. Josh was already in college, coming back home only on some weekends. Things were tense between him and our parents. He had dropped out of his first program and switched majors twice. Dad called him a disappointment once when he thought I wasn't listening. Josh heard it too. I think that's when something in him snapped. The first real crack between us came the summer after I graduated. I had saved up for months working at the local hardware store. I was going to use the money for a down payment on my first car, a beat-up Honda Civic a neighbor was selling. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I was proud of it. One night, after celebrating my graduation with friends, I came home to find the Civic gone. At first, I thought it was a joke. Maybe Dad moved it. Maybe it got towed somehow. But when I ran inside, heart pounding, it was Josh slouched on the couch with that stupid smug grin on his face. "Relax, little bro," he said, tossing the keys up and catching them with one hand. "I just needed to borrow it. Chill." I tried to stay calm. "Where the hell is it, Josh?" He laughed. "I parked it by Miller's Pond. Took it for a little joyride. You should thank me, cleared out all the gunk from the engine." I stormed out without another word. When I got to the pond, the Civic was there, half submerged in the water, doors wide open. Josh totaled my first car before I even got the chance to drive it properly. Our parents made him apologize, a weak, half-assed apology muttered over breakfast, but they refused to make him pay me back. "It was an accident," Mom said, wringing her hands. "He didn't mean to. Josh didn't mean to wreck my life." I wasn't so sure anymore. I spent the rest of that summer walking to work, hating him a little more with every mile. By the time fall came around, I had scraped together just enough to get another junker, an ancient Chevy truck with a missing tailgate. I didn't trust Josh near it. In fact, I barely spoke to him anymore. But Josh acted like nothing happened. He'd breeze in from college, raid the fridge, borrow my stuff without asking, my headphones, my clothes, even my toothbrush once. Then, during Thanksgiving break, he crossed another line. I had just started seeing a girl named Cassie. We weren't serious yet, but I really liked her. She was funny, smart, and didn't treat me like a backup singer in my own life. We were supposed to go to the movies one night, but she bailed last minute. No explanation, just a vague text. "Sorry, something came up." I was disappointed, but tried not to overthink it. Until 2 days later, when I went to the mall and saw her laughing at the food court, sitting way too close to Josh. He had that same smug grin on his face, the one he wore when he sunk my car. Cassie saw me, her smile freezing mid-laugh. She looked guilty as hell. Josh just shrugged, tossed an arm around her shoulders like he was claiming territory. I didn't cause a scene. I didn't scream or punch him in the mouth like I wanted to. I just turned around and left. Later, Cassie texted me some excuse about how things just happened, and Josh is really charming in person, as if that somehow made it better. It wasn't about Cassie. Not really. It was about the fact that Josh didn't care what he took from me, my car, my stuff, my pride, my relationships. If he wanted something, he just took it. That was when I realized Josh didn't see me as his brother anymore. He saw me as competition, as someone smaller, weaker, someone whose life he could wreck for sport. And the worst part, our parents still didn't see it. "Brothers fight," Dad said when I tried to tell him about Cassie. "You'll get over it." But I didn't get over it. Something in me started to harden that winter. A part of me decided, if Josh wanted to play games, I could play them better. By the time spring rolled around, I wasn't interested in talking things out anymore. Josh was coming home for summer break, and I decided that would be when it happened. I wasn't just going to sit there and wait for him to ruin something else. This time, I was going to strike first. The plan came together slowly, almost naturally, like it had been growing inside me this whole time. Josh had always been reckless with money. He spent what little he had on sneakers, parties, expensive cologne he couldn't afford. He was constantly begging Mom for loans he never paid back. Worse, he bragged about investing in some shady crypto schemes, usually on his phone, loudly, at the dinner table. I knew he kept everything on that phone, his bank info, passwords, even pictures of himself doing less than legal stuff with his friends. All I needed was access. That summer, He came home cockier than ever. I stayed quiet, played dumb, smiled when he teased me, laughed when he told the same tired stories about frat parties and fake Ides. It only took a week for him to get sloppy. One night, he stumbled home drunk after some bar crawl with old high school buddies. He tossed his phone onto the kitchen counter and passed out face first on the couch. It was almost too easy. I grabbed the phone and went upstairs to my room, heart hammering like crazy. I knew his lock code, his birthday. He was that predictable. I spent hours combing through everything. Screenshots of crypto wallets, emails about shady online purchases, even text messages that suggested he might have been dealing small amounts of weed around campus. Nothing major, but enough to get him into serious trouble with our super conservative parents and probably the law. And then I found it. A series of DMs between him and a girl I recognized, Emily. Emily, who happened to be the girlfriend of one of Josh's oldest friends. The messages were disgusting, graphic, detailed. Josh wasn't just flirting. He had been sleeping with his best friend's girl behind his back for months. And Emily, she was feeling guilty. She wanted to confess everything. That's when the idea clicked into place. I wasn't just going to expose Josh. I was going to let him expose himself. I downloaded everything. The DMs, the financial screenshots, the texts. I created a new and anonymous Instagram account, and I scheduled every piece of it to post slowly, drip by drip across one unforgettable weekend when all his friends would be home for a huge BBQ at our place. It was perfect. By the time he realized what was happening, it would already be too late. The BBQ is exactly what I needed. Crowded, noisy, full of people Josh was desperate to impress. He strutted around in his stupid aviators, tossing burgers on the grill, laughing a little too loud. I could barely contain my nerves. My palms were sweaty as I checked my phone every 2 minutes, watching the scheduled posts go live. First, the screenshots of the shady crypto scams. He bragged about how he scammed a freshman out of a few grand with promises of easy returns. Then the screenshots of him mocking his friends behind their backs, calling them losers, idiots, dead weight. The real bomb dropped 2 hours in. The DMs between him and Emily. At first, people just whispered, checked their phones, laughed a little. Then Josh's best friend, a huge guy named Tyler, stormed up to him in front of everyone. "You think it's funny?" Tyler barked, shoving Josh so hard he stumbled into the grill. Josh blinked, confused, stammering. "What are you talking about, man?" Tyler held up his phone. Everyone could see it, Emily's name, Josh's disgusting texts. "I trusted you, you piece of shit," Tyler said, his voice cracking. "You were like a brother to me." Josh's face drained of color. For once, he had no smirk, no comeback. He tried to deny it, but it was useless. The receipts were there. Public. Permanent. Tyler punched him. Hard. Josh dropped to the ground, bleeding from his mouth, scrambling back like a kick dog. Dad pulled Tyler off him, yelling. Mom was crying. People started leaving, whispering. And me. I sat on the porch, watching it all unfold, sipping lemonade like it was the best movie I'd ever seen. Josh didn't come home that night. He didn't come home for 2 days. When he finally slunk back, limping and swollen, he barely looked at me. Mom begged him to explain. Dad shouted until he was red in the face. Josh just mumbled something about being set up, but nobody believed him anymore. Not after everything. And the best part? I never had to say a word. After the BBQ disaster, our house turned into a war zone. Mom tiptoed around like she was afraid any loud noise would set someone off. Dad barely spoke to Josh at all, just gave him these long, furious stares across the dinner table. Josh, once the golden boy, was now radioactive. He stayed holed up in his room most days. Curtains drawn, lights off. I could hear the muffled sounds of his phone ringing. Over and over, probably old friends who wanted nothing to do with him now. Or maybe Emily, desperate to save her own reputation. It was glorious. Exactly what he deserved. But then, Josh made it worse. Way worse. One night when I came home from a late shift at the gas station, I found Mom sitting at the kitchen table, crying. There was an envelope in front of her, thick, official-looking. Inside were screenshots, printouts of the very same post that had ruined Josh with my fake Instagram account tagged in the metadata. He had hired some sketchy computer nerd from campus to trace the leaks back to the source. And he found me. Mom looked up at me with wide, broken eyes. "Tell me this isn't true," she whispered. I opened my mouth to lie, to say it was a mistake, a setup, anything, but I couldn't. Josh stepped out from the shadows, a smug, bruised mess. "Knew it was you, you little freak," he spat. "You think you're so smart. Guess what you're paying for this? Dad stormed in, his face like a thundercloud. You're grounded, he roared at me, for the entire summer. No phone, no car, no friends, nothing. I couldn't believe it. Josh destroyed friendships, cheated people out of money, betrayed everyone, and I was the villain? You're seriously taking his side? I snapped, my voice shaking. Dad slammed his fist on the table so hard that the salt shaker jumped. This isn't about sides. It's about family. Family. That word felt like a punch to the gut. I spent the next few weeks in miserable isolation. No texts, no Instagram, no nothing. Meanwhile, Josh strutted around like he had won, even though half the town still hated his guts. It was like our parents thought that if they punished me hard enough, they could pretend everything was normal again. But deep down I knew Josh hadn't won. He had just lit another fuse under his own feet. It was only a matter of time before it blew up, and I wasn't done yet. During those endless weeks of punishment, I had nothing but time to think, to plan. I realized something important. Josh wasn't just reckless, he was desperate. His reputation was in ruins. His fake crypto deals dried up. His friends ghosted him. Even Emily broke things off. Publicly, humiliatingly. Josh needed a win, badly. And he was about to make a really stupid move. One evening, when I was pretending to read in the living room, I overheard him on the phone. I'm telling you, it's easy money, he whispered, pacing like a caged animal. Just move the package, get paid. No big deal. No one will even know. My stomach dropped. Josh was about to get involved in something way over his head. I knew I should have told Mom or Dad, but after what they did, after grounding me for exposing the truth, no way. I was going to let Josh destroy himself. Better yet, I was going to help. A few days later, I followed him. Simple. Really, he was so paranoid about everyone else that he didn't even think to look behind him. He drove across town to the sketchiest strip mall you could imagine. Met up with some guys who looked straight out of a bad Netflix crime show. Tattoos, gold chains, dead eyes. I stayed hidden, snapping photos. Josh took a small duffel bag from them, stuffed it under his jacket, and drove off. The next morning, I mailed an anonymous envelope full of pictures straight to the police tip line, and I waited. It happened faster than I expected. 2 days after I sent the envelope, I woke up to the flashing red and blue of squad cars outside our house. I cracked my window open just in time to hear heavy fists pounding on the door, and Dad's voice, groggy and furious, yelling, "What the hell is going on?" I slipped into the hallway, heart hammering in my chest. Josh stumbled out of his room just as 2 officers stormed inside. They grabbed him without hesitation, hands twisted behind his back, cuffed so fast he barely had time to protest. "Joshua Miller, you're under arrest for possession with intent to distribute," one of them barked. Mom screamed. Dad looked like the life drained out of him in real time. And Josh? Josh looked right at me as they hauled him away, his mouth twisted in shock and rage. He knew. Somehow, someway. Even without proof, he knew it was me. The house felt like a graveyard after that. Mom didn't leave her room for 2 days. Dad sat in the recliner, staring at the blank TV screen, beer bottles piling up at his feet. Nobody spoke. Nobody even looked at me. Not even to blame me. It was like I had become invisible, a ghost, haunting the ruins of a family that used to at least pretend to function. I told myself I didn't care. Josh deserved it. Every second of it. But lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling fan spin endlessly above me, I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe I had crossed some invisible line too. Maybe there wasn't any coming back from this. A week later, Dad called a family meeting. Just me and Mom, sitting stiffly at the kitchen table while he paced in front of us. "We're selling the house," he announced, his voice dull, mechanical. "We can't afford the legal bills and the mortgage." Mom flinched like he had slapped her. "We're moving in with your Aunt Carrie, in Ohio. Ohio. The middle of nowhere. A place where I knew exactly 0 people. A place where the only thing bigger than the cornfields was the gossip. It felt like a death sentence. And worst of all, even after all of this, Dad still wouldn't look at me. Like somehow I was the one who broke this family apart. I found Josh's room empty, stripped bare, except for a single cardboard box in the corner. Curiosity got the better of me. I dug through it: old soccer trophies, ratty band t-shirts, a cracked iPhone charger. At the very bottom was a notebook. His handwriting. I flipped through it, expecting to find old homework or stupid doodles. Instead, I found lists, names, Amounts. Dates. Josh had been selling drugs way before the BBQ. Way before I ever exposed him. He was already in deep. I sat back, stunned. I hadn't ruined his life. He had done that all by himself. I just helped speed up the inevitable. I thought that realization would make me feel better. It didn't. That night, while Mom and Dad packed up the kitchen, I snuck out. I walked 2 miles to the county jail, heart pounding the whole way. Josh was allowed visitors now, 1 per week. When he saw me through the glass, his face twisted in pure, raw hate. He picked up the phone slowly. I did too. "You happy now?" he rasped. I swallowed hard. "You did this to yourself." He laughed short, bitter. "You think you're some kind of hero. You're just a snake. Always were." I leaned closer. "And you're a liar. Always were." For a long moment, we just stared at each other. No more pretending. No more family dinners. No more fake smiles. Just 2 broken kids rotting from the inside out. "I hope you rot in Ohio," he sneered. I smiled sweetly. "I hope you rot in here." I hung up the phone and walked away without looking back. The move to Ohio wasn't quiet. The night before we left, Dad got drunk again, angrier than I'd ever seen him. He stumbled around the living room, knocking over boxes, muttering about ungrateful kids and second chances wasted. At some point, he turned on me. "You think you're so damn smart," he slurred, pointing a trembling finger. "You think you saved us? You destroyed this family." Mom tried to pull him back, but he shoved her hand away. I stood there, frozen. All the anger I'd buried for years, all the resentment of being second best to Josh, all the times they overlooked me, blamed me, ignored me at all, surged up at once. "I didn't destroy anything," I said, voice shaking. "You two raised a criminal and ignored it. That's not on me." Dad's face twisted, red and ugly. "Get out." He didn't have to tell me twice. I grabbed my backpack already half-packed for the move and walked out the door without looking back. It was almost midnight. The town felt dead. I ended up at the playground down the street. The one Josh and I used to run around when we were kids, before everything got so complicated, so broken. I sat on the swings, kicking at the dirt, and realized there was nothing left for me here. Not in this town. Not with these people. Not with the Millers. The next morning I didn't go home. Instead, I caught a Greyhound out of town. No real plan. No real destination. Just away. I watched the sun rise through the dirty bus window, fields and empty streets flashing by. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel trapped. I felt free. Terrified, sure. Completely alone, but free. Small update, hey, everyone. Figured I'd give a little update since a couple people asked after my first post blew up. I'm living in a small city now. Got a job at a diner. Rented a tiny studio apartment that smells like old cigarettes and fried onions. But it's mine. Josh took a plea deal. He's doing 2 years in county. Might get out early for good behavior, but from what I hear, he's not exactly a model inmate. Mom and Dad moved in with Aunt Carrie. Haven't spoken to them since I left. Sometimes I think about calling. Sometimes I even pick up the phone. But then I remember the look on their faces. Like I was the traitor. Like I was the one who needed forgiveness. And I realize I don't owe them anything. Final thoughts. If you're stuck in a toxic family, no matter how long it's been, no matter how deep the roots go, you're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to save yourself. Sometimes burning it all down is the only way to build something better. I'm not saying it's easy. Hell, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. But for the first time in my life, I'm building something real. For me. By me. And honestly, that's worth everything I lost. The first few weeks in the new city felt like learning how to walk again. Every morning, I pulled on my diner uniform, a stiff black apron and a white button-down shirt, and faked a smile for customers who barely looked me in the eye. At night, I lay awake in my mattress on the floor apartment, staring at the cracked ceiling, wondering if I'd made a mistake. The loneliness was different here. It wasn't sharp or immediate. It was slow, heavy, like a fog settling into my bones. I tried not to think about home, about Josh, about my parents, but memories have a way of sneaking up on you when you're at your weakest. One night, after a double shift, I walked into the local laundromat, bag of sweaty uniforms slung over my shoulder, and saw someone who made my blood run cold. Josh's ex, Rachel. She was older now, maybe 22, sitting cross-legged on a plastic chair, scrolling through her phone. Our eyes met. Her face froze. I dropped my laundry bag. "Holy shit," she said, standing up slowly. "Is that you?" I nodded, throat tight. She looked me over, like trying to decide if I was real. Then against all odds, she smiled. "I can't believe it," she said. "I thought you disappeared." I shrugged. Kind of did. We ended up talking for 2 hours, sitting on the cracked tile floor between rows of humming washers. Turns out she had left town too, after Josh got arrested. Small town rumors were brutal. Everyone blamed her somehow, like she let him become what he was. She worked 2 jobs, same as me. Paid her rent, same as me. Lonely, same as me. It felt good. Like maybe I wasn't the only escapee from that hellhole. Rachel and I started meeting up more often. Nothing romantic, just 2 survivors sharing war stories over bad coffee and cheap diner food. One night, over a plate of greasy fries, she said something that made my stomach turn. "You know Josh always blamed you, right?" I froze. "What?" She stirred her soda with a straw, avoiding my eyes. "He used to say, you set him up, that you told the cops." I laughed, bitter. I did tell the cops, after he broke into my room and tried to steal my laptop to pawn for drug money. Rachel flinched. "I know," she said quickly. "I don't believe him. I'm just saying. That's what he tells people, even inside." Inside. The word hit harder than I expected. Josh wasn't just a bad memory, he was still out there, festering, poisoning the air. He said, "If he ever saw you again." Rachel trailed off. I didn't need her to finish. I got the message loud and clear. That night, for the first time in months, I dreamed of Josh. Only in the dream, he wasn't the scared, angry kid I'd grown up with. He was bigger, meaner. His smile was all teeth. I woke up sweating. I knew I couldn't stay hidden forever. Sooner or later, Josh would get out. And if he still blamed me, if he still wanted revenge, I wasn't ready for that. 3 months later, it happened. It was a Thursday night, almost midnight. I'd just come back from a late shift, tossing my keys on the counter, chewing off my shoes. There was a knock at the door. At first, I thought it was Rachel. She sometimes swung by after her shifts. I opened the door without thinking, and there he was. Josh. Out. Free. And he looked exactly like my nightmare version of him. Bigger. Angrier. Dead eyes. "Hey, little brother," he said, smiling like a wolf. I tried to slam the door, but he jammed his foot inside. "You owe me," he said, voice low. "I don't owe you shit." I spat. He laughed. Actually laughed. "You think you can run away? You think you can start over without me?" His hand darted out, grabbing my shirt, yanking me forward. I stumbled, heart hammering. "You ruined my life," he hissed. "Now I'm gonna ruin yours." I barely had time to react. Josh shoved his way into the apartment, slamming the door behind him. I stumbled back, catching myself on the kitchen counter. "What do you want?" I said, voice shaking. He smiled that same cold smile. "The question," he said, stalking toward me, "is what you're willing to give to keep living your pretty little life." I grabbed the first thing my hand touched, a cheap metal frying pan, and raised it between us like a shield. Josh laughed. "You're gonna fight me? You?" I gritted my teeth. "Get out." He tilted his head. "You think I came all this way just to leave when you tell me to?" For a second, neither of us moved. The only sound was our ragged breathing. Then fast he lunged. I swung the pan. It connected with a sickening crack against his forearm. Josh roared, more in rage than pain, and stumbled back. "You little piece of shit," he snarled. I dropped the pan and bolted for the door, heart pounding. He caught me by the collar just as I fumbled with the lock, pulled me back hard, slamming me into the wall. My vision blurred. "You owe me," he said again, his face inches from mine. Spit flying, his grip bruising. "You took everything from me," I gasped, struggling against him. "You took it from yourself," I choked out. For a second something flickered in his eyes. Doubt? Sadness? I couldn't tell. But it was enough. I kicked him hard in the shin. He howled, loosening his grip. I wrenched free, yanked open the door, and ran into the night. I didn't stop running until I was 6 blocks away, crouched behind a dumpster, trying not to throw up. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely pull out my phone. I called Rachel. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey, Josh," I gasped. "He found me." There was a sharp intake of breath on her end. "Where are you?" she demanded. I gave her the nearest street name. "I'm coming. Stay hidden." 10 agonizing minutes later, her beat-up sedan screeched to a halt by the curb. I dove into the passenger seat. Rachel didn't say anything, just gunned it, weaving through empty streets. Finally, Once we were a few miles away, she pulled into an empty parking lot and killed the engine. "You can't go back there," she said. "I know." She rubbed her face with her hands. "He's not gonna stop. You know that, right? He's obsessed." I nodded numbly. "What am I supposed to do?" She was quiet for a long time. Then, in a voice I'd never heard from her before, cold, certain, she said, "You have to make him stop." I stared at her. "You mean?" She met my eyes. "I mean whatever it takes." We spent the night planning. It wasn't complicated. Rachel knew someone who worked security at a sketchy bar downtown, a guy who owed her a favor. They got me a cheap burner phone, some cash, and a taser. Nothing fancy. Just enough. The next night, I texted Josh from the burner. "Meet me. One last time. No tricks." I gave him the address, an abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. If he wanted revenge, he'd come. And he did. I waited inside, hidden behind a stack of rotting pallets. I heard his boots crunch on the gravel outside. The door creaked open. Josh stepped inside, silhouetted against the night. "You really think you can end this?" he called into the darkness. My heart hammered. This was it. No more running. No more hiding. I stepped out. He saw me and smiled. I raised the taser. He lunged. I fired. The electrodes hit him square in the chest. He went down hard, body convulsing. I stood over him, breathing hard, my hand still tight on the trigger. He twitched once, twice, then lay still. Not dead. Just finished. For now. The cops came fast. Rachel had already tipped them off anonymously about a dangerous fugitive meeting someone here tonight. They found Josh sprawled on the ground, the taser wires still attached. Turns out he'd violated parole just by coming within 50 feet of me. They slapped the cuffs on him and dragged him away. He didn't even look at me as they shoved him into the back of the squad car. Maybe he knew. Maybe he finally understood that he couldn't own me anymore. Rachel drove me home. We didn't talk much, just sat there, windows down, breathing the cool night air. When she dropped me off, she said, "You're free now." I wasn't sure if she was right. Freedom isn't something someone hands you. It's something you fight for, something you earn. But for the first time in years, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I had a chance. Update 6 months later. Hey everyone. Figured I'd come back and give you all an update since a few people asked what happened after the whole thing with Josh. Honestly, life's been different. In a good way. Josh took a plea deal. Apparently, with his previous record, the taser incident, and the clear violation of parole, his lawyer advised him to plead guilty. He's serving a 4-year sentence. Maybe longer if he acts like an asshole inside, which, let's be real, he probably will. As for me, I moved to a different part of the city. Got a tiny apartment that's all mine. Started working part-time at a local bookstore. It's not glamorous, but I like it. It's quiet. It's safe. For the first time in years, I don't look over my shoulder every time I walk home. Rachel and I are still close. Closer than ever, honestly. She's basically my family now. Therapy's been a big part of it too. I finally admitted to myself that I needed help. Not just with the fear, but with everything that came before it. The manipulation, the gaslighting, the guilt. Some days are still hard. Sometimes I'll wake up from a bad dream, heart racing, thinking he's standing at the foot of my bed. But then, I realize, he's not. He can't touch me anymore. And every morning I get up and choose to keep going. One step, one breath, one new memory at a time. Thanks to everyone who read my story, and to those who sent me kind messages. You have no idea how much it meant. Stay safe out there. And remember, you're stronger than you think. If you like this video, please subscribe for more.